but I'd say about 7 minutes.
From the time
I'm
that
like,
you decided you were going to go record it to the time, and then how many minutes of that was you calling and then coming
2 minutes
in?
calling,
Huh?
2 minutes, 3 seconds. I
2 minutes
mean,
and 30 seconds of calling. So really, it was that. So the learning curve to be able to get on and use it and get something done is pretty fast.
that I'm excited about it.
Yeah, man. So yeah, you went out hunting 2 nights before, you said, but you also went out last night.
Yes, sir.
So you're tired, huh?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. You've got that group on Facebook. What is it called now?
So I've run DRT Predator Control,
Okay.
and then I host several different groups. They're just different ones for people with special interests, from raccoon hunting, hog hunting, coyote hunting, that type of stuff. Just general varmint hunting.
Cool. Well, you seem to stack them up pretty good. That's cool.
Thank you.
You had a chance to try CallTuneAI, yeah?
Yes, sir.
And what was your experience when you got in there?
I was very impressed with it.
Really?
I was hoping that I'd be able to do someday, and never really, considered that the equipment acquisition and the knowledge base, all the learning that you need to do things effectively and professionally and with the quality that I'd be looking for to be able to produce something like that, to capture it, number one, and then be able to produce it and put it into a system where I'm able to actually utilize it in the field using some unique sound files for my situation and the type of hunting that I do, especially in my specific geographic location. Kind of having that knowledge base of how animals come into the collar and what sounds kind of work this time of year. That's always the question that everybody's asking. And so, it's unique. If you're on the East Coast, there's different sounds that seem to trigger the animals better. If you're hunting on the West Coast, it's different. If you're hunting up north, we're down here in South, kind of Central Texas. And so there's unique calls that tend to work this time of year. And so kind of cluing in and focusing on those sound profiles and then being able to produce something repetitively that's going to work time and time again has always been something that I think any predator hunter that's worth their salt is interested in being able to capture. And giving yourself that unique edge, I think, above other folks within the industry is always kind of a struggle, because you're limited to what the equipment is capable of doing. You're limited to what's available on the market. And so having the application that you've created has been a tremendous advantage already, as I see it. And the wheels are spinning in my head on how to get out there and use it more effectively. Just
Cool.
yesterday, after, talking with you and just kind of brainstorming on how I might use it, went ahead and I recorded a few different sound files on some typical hand calls that I like to use. I mean, I've used these hand calls. My grandfather taught me about coyote hunting and trapping when I was 6 years old. I got my first coyote, and it's been a passion of mine ever since. And so I've got some hand calls. The first one that I got when I was 6, I still have it to this day. It's pretty worn out, but I still use it, and it still works and calls coyotes in. So you don't have to have the latest and greatest sound to be effective. The old tried and true methods work. And so just being able to capture that and not have to work so hard for me personally to produce the sound like I like to in a high pressure situation where maybe I've got a live animal moving into me and the situation's dynamically changing, and all of a sudden I see another one, in my periphery. All of a sudden that changes how I'm going to call that one animal in, because I may want to focus on the one farther away. And so I might have to change my calling up, and I don't want to educate the one that's coming in closer. I'm going to try to take the farther shot and that type of thing. So there's all kinds of scenarios that play out whenever you're especially coyote hunting in this time of year. For sure, you don't want to educate those young pups and then have them letting all the older dogs let you know, or let the other dogs know whenever you come hunting later on in the fall, that there's something up. They heard that sound. Those coyotes remember those sounds, and they remember how you set up. So you don't ever want to set up the same, but being able to have a good ability to manipulate the call and have it work at your fingertips like you need it to. If I need to mute the button and then just start playing again and have the sound right where I want it, I'm able to do that. And I think that's one of the big benefits with e-calls is you're able to control the volume, control the pitch now with your application. That helps us out tremendously. I think that's going to be a big benefit moving forward. Just being able to manipulate those sounds so that I'm not doing the exact same thing every time, and I'm kind of giving them something a little different to the ears, maybe to get their attention peaked and have them come on in. But
Okay. So I you know, I always say, honestly, people tend to use like 4 or 5 calls are their favorite calls, and they kill lots of coyotes. But
yes,
they do get educated. So I mean, part of me says, well, why do we need an app like this? I mean, there's so many freaking calls out there, but it is kind of fun to experiment and stuff. And I agree, they do get educated. But I mean, you're saying that that even if you took a hand call that you made that was brand new, you're thinking that they're smart enough that even after you called them once, that's kind of it. So if you can just quickly change that pitch, you can use the same one without having to create a whole brand new one and just get them in.
so yeah, if you call in a double or a triple this time of
Yeah.
year, and you've got a seasoned old dog that comes in and 2 pups or this year's animals that come running in, and you shoot that, one of those pups, and the other one's with that mature one, I think from what I've seen is they equate whenever there's a hazard or some type of a negative reaction with a sound. And I've seen them numerous times working in from a distance. I mean, they don't know what I'm playing, and they're coming in, and then pause or hesitate for some reason for a second, and you switch over to a certain sound, and it may be one. I mean, there's kind of, predator hunters have their go-tos, and I'll just use Fox Pro as an example. I've used Fox Pro for a long time, and there's calls on the caller that I still use to this day that produce time and time again. And so why change it up if they're working?
Yeah.
But in those scenarios, you switch over to one of those tried and true sounds that you played in that area before, and you see that animal. I mean, they just freeze right away. Their ears, their whole body language just changes on a dime, and they're burning out. And so if nothing else changed, maybe they heard the switch from one sound to the other, and that just kind of spooked them. But if you see that kind of an instance enough, you start to, I guess, the human brain tries to put patterns and logic to everything, and so you start to see that, and you're like, okay, well, maybe I need to try some different sounds. And so I think that's what really spawned that big variety of sounds that predator hunters seek, and they'll chase to the nth degree nowadays.
Well, there's so many that all sound similar. It's almost like they've been regurgitated and just remixed and stuff like that. A lot of them.
Absolutely, yes. You'll hear that too on some of these electronic callers. You'll be able to tell those pitches yourself when you're out in the
Pitches,
field.
patterns, everything. It's like, man, I've heard this before. It's just tiny bit different. And I don't know if the coyotes really know exactly. I've heard that before, this danger. I think it's more like us when we just have like the hair on the back of our neck raised up and we're like, whoa.
Maybe so. It's something that just
it's like, this something ain't right here.
That split second. But when you see one turn the brakes and spin on a dime, you know something happened. And so I'm very excited about this, because I'm gonna field test it and just see what kind of result it gives me. And I have a feeling in these areas that we frequent, or we come in and we call for somebody else who maybe wasn't doing their job effectively. We replaced the last guy. That's the most rewarding experience. Whenever you come in behind somebody that was previously hunting a property, you pick it up and you're able to produce results.
Right, because you're in predator control, so that's if somebody else is coming in, they're calling, they're not getting anything, and then you come and clean them out. I mean, that just they don't know what your secret sauce is.
Yes,
right?
Sir. Yes,
cool. Sir. And so I never thought of using it that way. So again, it's like you said, it's super easy to use, right? So in the past, as somebody who's been doing video and audio for years, like 30 years, even though I know how to use professional audio systems, and anybody can do this, right? Anybody can buy Logic, or they can get Reaper, a professional audio editing software, for free, and they can learn how to use it, and they can do this kind of stuff already. But even myself, using those tools and having good understanding, it takes me a long time. So I'm like, screw it. Like, it's just too much work. But I never thought of doing what you're saying. Now that this is so easy to be able to say, okay, I use this called in Coyotes. Normally you'd go, okay, this one works. I'm going to put it into this bucket right over here, as in I'm going to flag this as this is gold right over here. But I never thought of the idea of going, okay, this one, we know this one works, we're going to put it in this bucket, but now we're just going to flip it through the system again and just change it a bit, because it obviously works, but we want to freshen it up a little bit, and we can do it just like that, like in seconds, right?
With the ability to change the looping, to merge the files, to kind of almost stitch in, other frequency, other modulation within it. So, the tones, I guess, that everybody's like cottontail, jackrabbit. That's what they always classify stuff as. And I tend to try to think of things as like, if you ever come up on a nest of baby bunnies, there's a certain, pitch and sound that those baby, whether it's jackrabbit or cottontail, there's a certain, profile that they have. And then that older rabbit, there's a certain sound. If you have the unfortunate experience of hearing those animals ever get wounded, they definitely have a sound that just, like, even as a human, it tugs at your heartstrings. And so their parent, or their I guess the animal that's raising them is cued into that. But then predator species also are, and coyotes can hear so much better than we can. I mean, we can't fool their nose. That's one thing that we can't do anything about. So once they smell something that's not right, the game's over. But if you have the wind right, and you're able to entice them enough with that right pitch, or that right tone, that right sound, that right moment, and it could be a completely off the wall thing. I always tell people, I'm like, don't be afraid to use a sound that's touted as a summer sound or a winter sound, in a different.
Oh yeah.
That's what gives you the edge. Or trips their trigger at that period of time, because nobody else logically may be running that call profile or that sound profile like that, and then you do it differently, and that gives you that little moment of success, and that's all you need. Then you log that away, and you're put it on your preset list. It bumps up to maybe number 4 or 5 instead of number 40.
Yeah. You mentioned the bunnies and the jackrabbits, and I think I told you that story. My buddy said when he started hunting thermal, I mean, the go-to used to be jackrabbit or cottontail, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't know if you had the same experience, but I used to think, well, jackrabbit would be better because it's a bigger, better meal. Have you thought about that?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I used to lightning jack on the Spitfire. Boy, when I got me one of those, because it was so compact, it beat running a Johnny Stewart setup that I had created basically to hunt crows, and having to lug a 12-volt battery around with me. I remember my dad, it was quite humorous to him. He's like, just take a mouth or a hand call with you. I was like, no, I got this electronic call. I'm going to use it. He's like, but you're carrying around a 12-volt battery. He's like, that can't be fun. And, I would make that happen. I'd get my jackrabbit tape out, and I was like, okay, loudest speaker I can get, loudest amplifier. I'm going to have this excellent system, all these D batteries strung out everywhere from my player, and just halfway through the stand, maybe 7 minutes in, my batteries, my tape is going dead, and
oh no,
get frustrated. I was running, if I hunted at night, running 12 volts, where are they? Brinkman 2.5 million candle power spotlights. And you're plugging all that equipment around and blaring the jackrabbit as loud as you can. But man, there's so many times when I just put that jackrabbit tape, once it started fading down because the batteries were wearing out, go to my old hand bird call and just mimic like a killdeer. And it's amazing how many coyotes you call in, just doing soft, subtle pitches. Especially if you don't disturb the area when you come into it, those coyotes can hear for a long way. And I think you overestimate the amount of volume that's required to
Oh
be
yeah.
a hunter. It
A lot
doesn't.
of people tend to go way too hot when they first get into a place, and
Yeah,
even period. I mean, they think they're far, and meanwhile they're just over there. There's like a little tiny little coulee there, like a little dip in the landscape where they know it, but we can't see it, and they're just sneaking, and they're right there, and then we're blasting the hell out of it. But this buddy of mine said that when he did thermal, that's when he started seeing jackrabbits. Like in North Dakota here, we have a lot of jackrabbits, and there'd be jackrabbits all over the place in the field, and the cats would just trot right past them, 5 feet from them, and they'd not even try. And he said that he just stopped using jackrabbit completely because we don't know why, whether they just can't catch them and they're not worth the effort, or whether they taste like
I've got
crap.
11 behind my house.
What's that?
I have 11 behind my
There you
house,
go.
and they
Soon to be 100.
and I had a coyote come right in. I was watching it one night with my thermal, and I mean, it just meandered right by it, and I just chuckled to myself. I was like, well, he didn't not go after him because he didn't smell them, and he didn't not go after him because he saw them. I saw him. I saw him see them, and he's looking for grasshoppers and mice, and more subtle and easy to catch meals.
They're eating grasshoppers?
Oh yes, this time of year. Yes, this time of year. Always go and check the
The grasshopper sound.
you hunt predator, whatever. Go and look around and see what's in there, because that tells you. I mean, the Jurassic Park show, that's a pretty good. If you see the original Jurassic Park,
Yeah.
go and look in there what they're eating. It'll let you know. It tells you quite a bit.
I do that with bears too. But it's like those dog TikToks where you see the dog eats the big June bug or
Yes,
whatever he's got there. It's like, but
the hogs go after. People don't realize it, but they're like, oh, my pigs are tearing up my pasture or whatever. And we go out and we go hunting earlier in June, and that's what they're after. They're after those June bugs, and then
the grubs too. A lot of grubs and stuff
follows after that. And so then the pigs are after the cicadas, and the copperheads go after them too. So then we're on high alert for those.
Yeah. So I've always had the best luck with the higher stuff. So that there's a lot of really cool sequences that I thought could be good, that if you could, and you know what the problem is, a lot of the calls too, like this call, I love this call and I'm so used to using it for years and years, but you can't really get into that crazy high stuff, or maybe you can if you're better than me, but I can't. But I can get a decent sequence together with the little, shaking and everything. I didn't do a good job the other day, but
Yeah, you can't get the reed to reverberate like you wanted
yeah,
to.
I've tried taking them apart and stuff like that, but there's others, but a lot of them tend to go towards that really raspy stuff.
You need a dog whistle with a piece of wax paper.
Yeah, well, and if you get the dog whistle, then you can get those high frequencies too. The problem is you can't record those typically, even on an iPhone. But
that's all live work that you have to perform.
Yeah, but if you take them and even though it won't record those frequencies that's coming out of that whistle, my app will put it back, which is cool. So, when you it was yesterday that I gave you
Yes, sir.
that we got you set up, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
can you just give me a rundown of
Absolutely.
just chronologically, just give me.
It was so.
Yeah.
Sure.
So tell me from the start to the finish. Okay. So you gave me the code. I logged in, and then what happened?
Yeah, you gave me the code. I went and I logged in. That was easy peasy. I looked at the app and I thought to myself, I was like, okay, there's something I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to go and do a really good, heartfelt stand or session on one of my hand calls and record that. One with a lot of emotion in it, a lot of variation in sound pitch, just something where it allows me. Because the way I see it is normally when I go with an e-caller, I'll go out and I'll have 3 or 4 sounds that I'm going to play. But with a hand call, if I have one of the hand calls that I like to hunt with the most, I can take that call, manipulate it, and get all the sounds I want, and basically just use that single hand call on that whole stand. And so I've always thought it would be a big benefit to just record me doing that with the different pitches like I like to make and the different cadences that I like to inflict on the call, so to speak. Record that, capture it, and then have it at my disposal so I can repetitively perform that sound, as I would like to, as I need to. And so I kind of had that in my head, and I was like, I'm going to put it to the test. So I believe 12/16 yesterday is when I started working on everything. And I called you to touch base that I had created the first file. I had it on my caller already by 12:47. I think we were talking at 12:47. I might have called you a little earlier than that. But that's
I don't know.
It was so simple. I recorded it on my iPhone in the voice memo file like you explained you could do. And then I just dropped it over to my profile, set it up on my desktop, went and I ran the AI process. It said it would take 3 minutes. I think it was done in about 25 or 26 seconds. I guess my internet speed.
Well, no, it's the server thing, but it depends on how many people are on there. That sounds about right. It does sometimes take longer.
It didn't hold me up at all. So
that's good.
I took the sound file and I saw it produce all the different file types, like you said, the 7.
Yep.
And so I went and I clicked on them and I played them and I listened to them, and I figured, well, just for time's sake, I'll just take the highest quality sound file that we had and I'll plug that in and I'll get that onto my caller. And so I did so, and I was playing with it on my caller. And the whole thing, my wife was like, "Are you done already?" I was like, "Yeah, I did a sound file. It probably took minutes."
How many minutes?
I've been programming Fox Pros for people and myself for years. I guess whenever I got into it, a lot of my friends didn't have desktops or didn't know how to use the Fox Pro programming app, and so I've helped people out through the years, and so I don't want to say become well versed, but I'm effective.
But you cut out, your audio cut out when you said how many minutes. So about how many minutes from the time that you?
It was actually probably, so the sound file was about 2 minutes. I did it in one take, so I was very happy with that. My kids weren't in and out of the house too much then. Did it just out on the porch. So one of the things I was telling you about yesterday was my condenser unit was running for my AC outside, and I was afraid it was going to be too loud and that it would pick up, on the iPhone audio, because it has a decent speaker system on it. But whenever we ran the CallTuneAI, it
cleaned it up,
odd noise out, just like you said it would. So, it extracted the meat and potatoes of what I was looking for, and so it did a fantastic job. But I'd say about 7 minutes
from the time that you decided you were going to go record it to the time, and then how many minutes of that was you calling and then coming
2
in?
minutes calling. 2 minutes 30 seconds.
2 minutes and 30 seconds of calling. So really, it was that. So the learning curve to be able to get on and use it and get something done is pretty fast.
Yeah, I get determined whenever I get something.
That's cool.
That I'm excited about. I get pretty determined about it, and so this is a great tool in the arsenal.
So let me ask you, how long did it take you once you had the file? How long did it take you to get it onto the Fox Pro? Was it longer to get it on the Fox Pro than once to do the whole sound?
Well, some of my file queries are pretty extensive, so it takes a little while for it to process on the computer on my end, which is probably my computing unit.
Okay.
But that was probably the longest part. Was I always back up my sound file, so it takes a little while. But once it had done that, then it was off to the races.
Okay, but overall, pretty fast.
So, absolutely.
So I don't know how long it was between the time that you got hooked up and called me, but
I created 5 more. I had to leave to go to church yesterday evening. I think we were done by 3:00. I had the computer turned off at 3:00 after I got back into it. So the next sound files, I was a little bit more thoughtful in how I put them together. I did a bird file. I did a rodent file. I did a juvenile rabbit. I actually went and I worked on my own sound name profile structure and whatnot. So I just took our Predator Control group and I used DRT, which is shameless plug, dead right there. That's what
very cool.
Right, Predator Control. And so I created my own file type. So I've got DRT fence row bird.
Cool.
I've got DRT jumping rabbit. You can hear the motion. You can hear the motion.
You can. You can even through the horn speaker.
Through you can hear it coming through on the shockwave.
Wow, cool.
DRT juvenile rabbit, DRT old thumper, DRT ragged rabbit, and then DRT rodent rascal.
Very cool. So I'm excited that you did that because I don't have all these new colors. And back when I was working with Fox Pro and we went from the 416 with the single small little horn and that one that looked like a little Rayovac flashlight,
Yes.
to the dual speaker system, that was all about trying to figure out a way to get the sound to come out from one speaker to the other. Like this, we're always talking about ways to keep them ahead. But it was still kind of mono, right? It's still a mono file. So did you load stereo files on
did.
there? Oh, you put the stereo ones on there.
I did all in. So I did stereo. I did I had my
But
selections.
so the stereo, even though that's not a stereo unit, see, maybe it is because I don't know how the shockwave works. Whether Fox Pro set it up where it's got two channels, I'm sure they're using mono files, and they're probably using some kind of tech, either in their remote or something else, modulation to kind of simulate and come through. I don't know. We'd have to ask Mike Dillon about that or the marketing guy. So typically, if you take a stereo file and you run it through a mono device, you're going to lose some volume. Now, well, you're going to probably, well, not necessarily, because some of the stereo, like the JBLs and all that, they don't have as much power as, say, a horn, you know what I mean? But they have plenty already. And the fact that you're getting that modulation is a huge, in fact, all the coyotes are so used to people blasting with a plain Jane horn. I think even though it's maybe a little quieter, it's still going to be very, very powerful to use that stuff. But I'm surprised that you're saying that you were able to put a stereo file on, say, the shockwave and still be able to hear it.
I can still hear. When I was recording it, I was articulating my hand, and so the depth perception or whatever that the speaker, the
Just the
recording,
highs and the lows, yeah.
it kind of picked that up, and so it gives me that like sound indication of depth of like proximity, I guess, and so you can hear that. And that's I'm not technical enough yet.
Yeah, well, that might be you because the app is definitely set up so that you've seen the waveforms, right? How it kind of will. So without you doing anything, you could have a straight up mono file that's everything. That's everything like boom, but it'll still give you that. But if you're, it'll also pick up your technique too, especially with the highs and lows and waveforms. So that's really cool though. If you can put it on the shockwave and still get a good quality stereo effect and get the volume you need.
I was very turned out on the shockwave. I will note that the second file that I created and to put on the caller, whenever I played, I took the highest, the AI high frequency file, and I put it on there, and it went distorted.
Oh, really?
It was really delayed, and it reminded me of the sound of like an elk calf bugling. It just was like almost kind of like you were talking through water.
Okay, no, I've heard that before. So what you're saying is,
I removed it.
Yeah.
I removed it and I put the 24-bit files on for all of the other sounds that I did. And so the sound that I did,
I know what happened.
You can hear the difference in it versus the other the 24-bit files.
Yeah. So what's happening is when you upload the file to, like, it was okay in your desktop, you're saying, right?
Yes, and I clicked it on here right now. It would sound fine.
So what happens is it's likely, I mean, again, you'd have to ask Fox Pro, what's happening is Fox Pro is converting it to an FXP file, which is their own proprietary format to play. And likely the caller won't support 192 kilobyte per kilohertz sound file, because typically they're 44.1. So it's the 24-bit one, which is the highest quality, is 44.1, and it probably had no problems with it. But when you put in that, because how many megabytes is the high freak? Is the freak AI file?
I can go click on it.
The freak AI file, freak AI. But it's it's going to be way bigger than the 24-bit wave.
67.2 megabytes.
Versus the 24-bit wave is what? 8 megabytes.
The size is 31,700 KB. If it's compressed, it says it's 25,000 KB.
I don't understand. I'm just talking about how many megabytes the file is, like the 20.
That's what I'm saying. The file size 24 is small, or
it's like 3.1 megabytes or something versus 60 megabytes. What does that work out to?
You do the conversion from megabytes to kilobytes, so it's
Yeah.
the whole different.
Substantially small.
It's levels of magnitude less.
Yeah.
That's why I
Well,
said it KE, because I was like, it's not as big.
yeah. Well, it's definitely those files are definitely intensive. So you'd probably have to like that should play on anything else, right? That doesn't have what's
My
that?
little Bluetooth speaker system, and my wife has one for she does some school stuff, and so she's got a Bluetooth speaker also that she uses. So I want to play with those and compare those and see how the file sounds, because I think those Bluetooth speakers, they have like a safety built built into them, so you don't blow the speaker or damage stuff.
Probably.
And like I've noticed when I play stuff on my Fox Pro Shockwave, because I'll use the Bluetooth. Like one time I was working on a construction project over the summer, and I had my Fox Pro Shockwave in my truck, so I just turned on the Bluetooth, did it on my iPhone, played my music over my Shockwave, and it was very loud. It was capable to go way louder than it need to. But anytime you use those Bluetooth speakers for music or audio or whatever, audio books, it doesn't seem like it's going to push the edge of it.
And it's got the limiter on it, like the
Yeah.
motorcycles and cars and stuff,
Right.
the safety switch. But I still think that if you take that file and put it on because you can take your voice recording file, put it up to your computer, and then you can probably bring it back and import it in there. But I've got the app coming. But you should just try and take the file and then bring it back. You could probably just put it in. Are you iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Yeah. So then you can definitely move it over even into your files. So you can airdrop it back to your iPhone, and you can play it right off your iPhone to any Bluetooth speaker just to test it.
Sure, I'll do that whenever we get off of here.
Yeah. And I'd be curious as to see if that's gonna be a factor with that one too. But if it plays on your computer, it should be fine. It's just, again, you're probably not going to get, most speakers don't go up over that 20 kilohertz or so. The human ear, depending on who you are, can probably hear like 22 or so. But I don't think it's going to hurt to have, it shouldn't hurt to have them both in there. And if you can get even an extra little few out of there, plus some motion, that's pretty cool. So,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Cool. I'm glad you are. It's one of those things where a lot of work went into it, and you go to yourself, I wonder if anybody's going to use this thing. How this is going to go. But
Yeah, I kind of felt bad. The two coyotes that I called in last night, they the first one came in within 45 seconds of the call being turned on, so it was kind of underwhelming. I was like, well, I don't know, I don't know how far it had to come, to get the picture taken. And then the second coyote that came in, it took a little while for it to work in, but it actually was out of my line of sight, probably like 500 or 600 yards out after the first coyote was taken out. And luckily I was running I've been running these silent AF cans. And so I'm just going to drop a plug for,
sure.
But I really am a believer too in the displacement of sound from a suppressor. It's nice to knock it down so it doesn't hurt your ears, but it's also nice to confuse the animals. And the coyote that I saw that was out in the field still, and when it started working in toward the call, I was like, okay, well, this is great, because it ignored the report of the rifle, and it's going to continue to come in. And sure enough, it came on in, and to my own calls. Now, granted,
I didn't even realize you were saying that those were the ones you recorded yesterday. So you literally recorded them, went out that night, and shot some coyotes with them.
Yes.
How cool is that? That's awesome. That makes me feel good.
Very effective.
Nice. And so when you say those two came in, did they kind of come in together? You shot the first one and the other one still stuck around?
They were out in the field, and I was assuming, they were a pair. They just weren't, within earshot of each other at the moment. But the first coyote came in from down in a low area and worked his way up. He was probably within 200 yards. Probably when I turned the call on, I just didn't know that he was there because of the cover in the terrain. And then the other coyote, he was about 600 yards out on the edge of the field on a neighboring property, but worked all the way into the call too. So when they do that, you just might as well take them out.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's really cool. Well, I appreciate you, taking it and trying it so quickly and getting me some feedback, because You know, typically somebody gets it and they don't use it for a while and everything else, but it's nice to see you could go out there and kill
my
some
whole
coyotes right
like,
away.
I don't really like having to sit at a computer more. I like to get out and hunt
Yeah.
and like all that stuff. I mean, I feel like I fail as a predator hunter. You know, it just you call the animal in, you shoot it, and you take a picture of it or video, and you go. And but for some reason, people are interested in hunting and predator calling, and I feel like there's more interest in it than there ever has been before. Starts to it starts to feel like those multi-level marketing things where you just everybody is doing it, and the people that are interested in it probably already have the tools, and then, so there's a little piece of the pyramid that hasn't got acquainted with thermals yet or with electronic call. There's still people out there that haven't. Maybe their buddy runs one, and there's 4 or 5 guys hunting. And so not all of them own a caller. And I mean, this revolutionizes it in a way where you don't have to be afraid of purchasing a bunch of sounds and going into debt on a credit card or whatever to acquire all the sound profiles. You can generate your own sounds for a reasonable fee and really go after multiple species. Right now I'm doing coyotes. I'm already thinking about doing crows. We have a lot of crow depredation that occurs out here in our area, and there used to be a lot of folks that hunted them around me. And
We used to do it when I was a kid, man. We used to.
out.
Remember I told you about that listserv we had in the 90s that I had, Seekers of the Red Mist. We had a coyote hunting contest. It was like whoever shot the first one of the season, because it was in Canada, in Manitoba, you could hunt it pretty much year round, but in other areas in Saskatchewan, it was certain times or whatever. So but they'd migrate, right? So they'd be gone. And then all of a sudden the first one would come back, and that was when spring was here. So we'd have this little contest, and we had a lot of fun, but we were using the Snow Crow Pros, and we were using our other collars and stuff like that too to blast them in. I love doing that in Manitoba. I love shooting them far away, even without a collar. Like we were shooting them sometimes up to 600 yards. I mean, freaking far, like sniping them.
Touch them.
Out of the top of the tree, and it'd be like, I don't know if you got those trees where you are down there, but we have these trees where they have these two, call them helicopters, where you pick the seeds and you throw them, and they do. You see those? You ever seen those trees?
I haven't seen this. We have a lot of pecan trees and
so we in Manitoba we have these trees where it's kind of like a fork, and it's kind of like a heart, but it's like two little petals, and they're weighted, and when you throw them up, they actually kind of come down. We throw them around. I mean, they make a hell of a mess. But I mean, I always equate that because I used to shoot the crows at the tops of the trees, and you'd see like using like a 55 grain at 4,200 or something. They just like poof in a big pile, and then you'd see the wings come down.
Yeah. Oh yes.
It's so much fun. But yeah, I mean, bird sounds. Like I've got pictures of that one picture with the collar. We got some magpies underneath there. What we used to do, because we had horses and stuff. And if you had a calf drop, or there was a foal or something like that, the magpies were so awful where we are that they would wait around for them to drop. They'd almost know that they were about to drop. They had some kind of sixth sense for that, and they'd gang up and they'd hang out. And as soon as they drop, the first thing they'd do was blind them, and then they'd go out and they'd spine them, and they'd pick away at the spine to paralyze them, and then they'd eat them alive. So they'd cluster around like that. And those bird sounds, even not distress sounds, just nodded bird chatter, used to bring in the coyotes and stuff like that too. So all those sounds work, and a lot of those high-pitched sounds,
That's kind of around the time that we'd really focus on our predator hunting. With my grandpa, he had his farm, and so when he'd have his watermelon crop, the coyote pups would come and steal the watermelons, or the young coyotes would, and so we would sit there and shotgun them, 10 yards away, just sit by some hay bales and get them. And then the same thing with the coyotes with the calves. They'd come to eat the afterbirth of the calf droppings. And we also have, I wish they'd allow us to hunt them. We have a lot of caracaras here. Some folks call them a Mexican buzzard. They look like a miniature bald eagle with a little bit of plumage on top of their head.
Okay.
Black and white like a bald eagle. And a lot of folks mistake them for a bald eagle, but they're a much smaller version. They're larger than a crow, but smaller than a red-tailed or a red-tailed hawk. But those birds this year have been so voracious. My brother's a veterinarian, and he had a calf that was being born. And while it was being born, they pecked out its eyes, and then after it was born, they pecked out its rectum. And he tried to do everything he could to save that calf, and it ultimately passed away. But that has happened several times throughout the years, just with dealing with cattle and sheep, lambs. I've got a lot of folks that raise lambs and goats and things that we hunt for, and they get preyed on all the time too. And it just it's one of those things that it frustrates you. Some of the government that are there to protect some things end up hurting other things, and government, tries to protect as much as it can, I guess. But
well, I think a lot of times, a lot of the animals that get killed by those birds, it's the coyote that gets blamed or whatever, because the coyote comes in after, like the coyote might not have taken it, but the coyote's got it after it's already been blinded and they've already had their way with it. You know what I mean? So the thing's going to die anyway. The coyote's just coming and cleaning up what's there. I'm sure opportunity wise, they'll take them if they can, but I think a lot of them are those frickin' birds because there's so many of them.
Yes. And the other one that we have down here the regular vulture or buzzard, the pink-headed one down here hasn't really been as bad, but the black turkey vulture that we have down in Texas, they talk about it all the time, opening up a season or, permitting people to dispatch them. It'll pick up some traction and then somebody decides they don't want to do it. But, those birds they wreak havoc as well.
Yeah. I'm glad you got a chance to take it out. It's super cool that you got the DRT right on your box right now. That's super cool.
Yeah.
So you got like MFK and you got all that other stuff. Now you got DRT.
Yes, sir.
Right on. Love it. Well, that's cool. That's the thing. When I did it, I thought there's a lot of, because when all the way through, I thought to myself, I'm going to record my own calls. And I'd go up with my buddy Ken, who's 80 now, and he's like a master caller. Man, that guy he's like a magician, when it comes to calling coyotes in.
That's my goal.
What's that?
That's my goal. I want to get to the level my grandpa was at.
Oh, he's like the Pied Piper with coyotes. That guy shoots so many coyotes, and he's still 80. And I was supposed to go up, but now I ran out of time because the app wasn't ready. But I was supposed to go up, and we were supposed to just do a bunch of calling. I'm not allowed to hunt coyotes in Canada, in Saskatchewan, because Saskatchewan has it where you got to be a resident of Saskatchewan. So even though I'm Canadian, I can't.
I was like, this is an interesting story coming up here.
I know. So I see, I don't know if it's Randy Anderson or something like that. He's always going up there to Saskatchewan, but he's like, even as a Canadian, I can't hunt coyotes in Saskatchewan. You have to be a resident of Saskatchewan. So as a Manitoban, I couldn't drive across the border into the other province and hunt with my buddy. I could, but I would have to just film or hang out. I couldn't. Yeah. So I was just going to go up there and record a bunch of sounds and stuff, That's why I say he's got all this video because he did 3 DVDs.
Yes.
And it's actually surprisingly good. Probably better than we could get off even your iPhone, right? It's older DVD footage and older high 8, but I'm thinking to myself, man, I could get a lot just off that. And some of them are quite long sequences, and then he's getting vocalizations back. And even though it sounds far away, but some of these ones some of these guys are getting coyotes coming in right up close at night, barking like crazy, and it sounds really good, even on the thermal. Now they'll be able to rip that.
On a thermal recording.
What's that?
You know that was an intense stand whenever the hair on your neck stands up when you hear those coyotes bark at you.
Yeah. That's my next thing. I want to see how that one guy I was talking to, he said he's got some on his thermal, and he's gonna see if he can rip it off the thermal and see if it's good enough to be able to, if the app works well enough to kind of like jazz it up a little bit.
My ATN scope, I'm sure all that footage isn't very useful, but some of these thermals now, you've got a really good point there. I mean, I've got thousands and thousands and thousands of recorded kills now at this point, from hogs to coyotes, and the coyote footage. I mean, there's some good opportunities on there for sure.
So you're saying good vocalizations from them responding back? Yeah.
Yes.
So, and the funny part is, even though I've heard that some of those ATNs, the video is bad, but a lot of times the audio is actually really good compared to the video. Like what I'm saying is, it's easier for any of these devices to record good audio than it is good video. So you might be surprised, but again, like I wanted to put out all these sounds when I was younger. You know, I'm gonna make myself a store like MFK or BFA or something like that. You know, they didn't exist back then, of course, but I was gonna do that. And I just, even as a professional that does audio and video, I just, you know, you do one or two like for yourself, and then you'd be like, oh, screw this. I gotta go make some money or something. I gotta go do something else. This is no fun anymore because it's a lot of work. But now, you know, I could see a lot of guys, you know, even like you, getting the commercial license and then just doing their own sounds, you know. Because there's always going to be people who want to play and experiment and like loading ammo, and there's going to be people who just want to grab something quick. But
well, if you can capture that, whatever it is in that geographic area or that region that seems to trip their trigger, if you can capture that, put that into a sound file, and then somebody figure it out, I mean, they may not tell anybody about it, but they're going to use it, and it's going to work for them.
You know, I never thought of it either, but just like you had different Indian tribes in the old days that have their own little dialect that's similar but not the same, and then I'm sure the coyotes do too, you know. And they're also different sizes and different subspecies, and, you know, the eastern coyotes, a lot of them are mixed in with dogs, or they're much bigger, same as the ones in northern Manitoba or in Manitoba and Saskatchewan. We've got some pretty big coyotes there. Some of them, I don't know if they've mixed with wolves or big dogs or what, but we got some decent sized coyotes once in a while too. And then we got smaller ones. So some of them look quite different. So I would imagine they have a little bit of different tonality and different ways that they communicate down south versus up north and stuff. And that this could allow someone to just grab some of their own stuff and
some of that regionalization.
Yeah. Cool.
Yes.
Yeah, sweet. Well, I appreciate your time talking to me today. I'm super excited to hear some feedback on it. Ideally, if it goes well, then we can start bringing in all the other stuff we're talking about, like the cutting and mixing and the layering. And figure we're probably going to bring one track in first where you'll be able to cut up and trim it and move stuff around, but then you'll be able to layer on top. And then very soon after that, if we get enough people interested, then we're going to get the AI so you can just do it based on a prompt. Yeah.
That'll be great.
Working on it.
I think being able to do that all in one place, that'll really streamline the process. It's already fun.
Yeah, I just call it wild card. So it's like a randomizer where you can even take the one that you've got, and then you can say, okay, now generate me 2 or 3 versions of this one that I already like, and it'll just like change it up just a little bit. So now you have that same sequence, but it's just like you push a button. Oh, yeah. It's like a wild card button. It's like a slot machine, like ding, 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 ding. And then you got like 3 variations right there. That's what I'm working on.
That's fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah. This is going to go places, I believe. It's going to be
I hope so, because
it's going to be a lot of
fun. I need to recoup my investment, because
folks are already excited about it, man. I don't know what to do for them, because this is I'm definitely pumped about it.
Cool. Well, I'm hoping that that I get some good collabs with some of the guys that are actually making some sounds too, because I think they can use it, but we'll see. Yeah.
There's a lot of good sound makers out there.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing more results in the future.
Alrighty.
Well, I appreciate you, man. And give me your company name again. Gregory, what's your last name again?
It's Gregory Perry.
Gregory Perry.
DRT Predator Control. I've got a guy that has been with me for a long time hunting. His name is Travis Wood. And then our other buddy, Kevin Holscher. He's got a group called Nocturnal Solutions. And he is the pig hunting guru. If it's anything to do with wild hogs, he's done it. He's taken care of them for so many people. He's got a lot of happy clients on his list.
Cool. Well, it'd be cool. You know, I think you can call those hogs in too. Those hogs that are hanging up a little bit up.
We do.
Right. Yes, yeah. So rather than walking all the way out with your tripod, I think you can just call them in, especially if you can get some of the sounds.
It does, like, especially whenever it's a situation where we're on maybe a field edge. Right now we're dealing with a lot of corn. It's about to start getting harvested down here in our area. And that's a very, used to it was unique. I think very many people did it. But I tried in 2006, I used a mountain line file. It started raining, and I was able to call hogs in with it.
Wow.
I had some random sounds on my Fox Pro. I tried it out, and I think it was Mountain Lion in Distress or Mountain Lion in Heat, one of those two. And I was really just playing because it started raining. I was in the top of a barn. It was a hay barn, and I was up in the top layer of it, and I'd been coyote calling. And when it started raining, I didn't want to get soaking wet, and it looked like it was going to pass through. This is before I had a smartphone and could tell, a weather app or anything. So I was like, well, I'll just let my call sit out there for a little bit in the rain. And it wasn't really letting up too much. And so I just started calling and called in some pigs, and I was able to shoot them. And I was like, okay, well, that was a random experience.
Yeah, fluke.
I tried it again a few weeks later, and it worked. And so I've used, I use pig sounds, but I've used mountain lion distress sounds more times than I can count and been successful calling in wild hogs. So just to give an idea to folks that say, oh, you've got to use this certain species to call in something. You got to use this species. I called, at night when you're coyote hunting, you call deer in this time of year, call fawns in,
Oh, shit, yeah. And the animals are curious, too, so.
Yeah, they're curious.
Especially at north, at night, I mean.
Less, I guess, inhibition or whatever. And so the doe, they get frustrating. I mean, you're running a thermal and you're like, oh, here comes something moving. You see that movement in your scanner, and then you go hesitate and you're like, it's a doe again, or it's a fawn or whatever. But the wild hogs truly, in the right scenario, they do respond and come in. And that's one of the more difficult things. I wish I had a way to collect some, hog distresses. Maybe
I'm sure you do. He's like, oh, I wish I had a way.
Yeah. But now it's got the wheels turning. So thanks a lot. Yeah. My wife's sitting looking at me like, oh, great.
Yeah. Well, like I said, some of the stuff that these guys used to do back in the day, to get these sounds, you get in trouble for that now, but.
All my sounds are ethically made, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. I hear you. Yeah. This was not a real sound. This was generated by CallTuneAI. This isn't actually a tortured pig. This is made by AI. I know it sounds super realistic, but go and arrest the AI.
Yeah. Blame them. PETA can go after them.
That's right. Yeah, I'm just waiting for that. Yeah. Oh well. Anyway, okay, I'll let you get back to your Sunday, buddy.
All right.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for your help.
Yes, sir.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.